Welcome to everybody on Zoom and to all of you in the streetcar station. Thanks for being with us here tonight. We have Sia and Jake from Metro Transit here to talk with us about the H-Line project, give us an overview of their engagement plan and kind of how some of this might look here in the neighborhood, and to receive your feedback and hopefully be able to answer your questions. So with that, I am going to pass it over to Sia and Jake. Welcome.
Thank you. First, I'd like to say thank you for having us and allowing us to take space as we're entering into our pre-engagement phase for the planning phase. As you said, my name is Alyssia. I do go by Alyssia. My pronouns are she, her, and I am the lead community outreach coordinator for the Metro H Line. I'm joined by my colleague here, Jake, who is acting as kind of like our technical expert for the planning phase, which we're currently in. Um, Really, we're here to bring some information, kind of like you said already, about the planning and engagement process, what that looks like, how does engagement work, and be able to answer some of your questions. So during the Q&A portion, you may see me look down. I just want to make sure that everyone's aware of that. I'm just going to be taking some really good notes and going from there. And I can allow Jake to go ahead and introduce himself.
Thanks, Sia. As Sia said, my name is Jake Knight. I'm a principal planner at Metro Transit, and I am leading this phase of the H-Line project. We have a presentation for you today, and we'll have some time at the end to have a discussion, take questions, etc. First, before I get started, can folks hear me all right? And can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Excellent. All right, so as Sia said, we're here today to talk through the forthcoming planning phase of the H-Line project, and wanted to provide some information about that process and introduce the project to you. Make sure you have information to provide feedback later this winter when we'll be doing our first public comment period. But first, let's get into a little bit of the background about this project and BRT at Metro Transit. So we're here talking about the Metro H Line, which is a bus rapid transit line that is planned to operate 17-mile line operating from downtown Minneapolis to the east side, ending at Sunray Transit Center. Bus Rapid Transit, or BRT, is service that is fast, frequent, and all day, serving different types of trips, and service that you don't need to look at a schedule for. It's so frequent you can really rely on it for making different trips for different purposes. As part of that, and as part of this project, we also construct high quality, high amenity, and secure stations for the bus to stop at. We also have buses in addition to those stations that are comfortable and easy to use. The H-Line project is a substantial upgrade and extension of the existing Route 3. And we'll show a little bit more detail about existing Route 3 today. Route 3 is our region's 5th highest ridership bus route in calendar year 2024, but that trend still continues. We're really excited about the H-Line. It will provide really critical east-west transit service, connecting the all of St. Paul east to west, with critical destinations in Minneapolis, including 2 U of M campuses. So here is our overall project schedule. You'll see we are still in the very early stages. The H-Line was identified as a project by the Metropolitan Council in March of 2021, following an extensive technical and community stakeholder process. Over the last year or so, we've been working with our agency partners and internally to put some meat on the bone around the project and started to prepare for the planning phase. As you can see, the planning phase is this middle section, and this is the point at which we're really engaging with community and our partners to get feedback on the proposals for the project, the proposed, uh, principally proposed station locations. We will have three versions of our corridor plan, which is our public-facing document that outlines where where stations will be and the contours of the project. And we'll go into more detail about what the corridor plan means and the public comment periods associated with that and how we'll be engaging you to inform this planning phase and those station locations. We're hoping to wrap that planning phase up by fall or winter of next year, 2026. The project will then go into engineering and do really detailed, down to the inches level of design. And we're anticipating construction would occur in 2028 and 2029. I want to take a step back and just talk about what is arterial BRT. What are we talking about here? Arterial BRT is a type of transit service using buses that addresses our region's highest ridership routes. As I said earlier, the Route 3 is our region's fifth highest ridership route, and BRT is a way to provide better service that is more reliable, faster, provides that frequent all-day, everyday access, connecting destinations through communities, but also across the region. We do this to provide that improved experience at stations where you're waiting, as well as on board the bus. And this has really been a proven method for Metro Transit to grow ridership, to have folks who are ride more often, but also bring new folks into the system. So our arterial BRT is really designed, again, to be faster, more reliable, and easier to use. A few additional characteristics of that service. So unlike the Route 3, which maybe stops every couple blocks, H-Line and arterial BRT has stops every half to third mile. So wider station spacing, which means that we spend more time moving, have faster trips, allow folks to get where they're trying to go more quickly. We construct high-tech, high-amenity, and secure stations. I'll give some detail about some of the aspects of those in just a minute. Like other arterial BRT, folks might be familiar with the A-Line operating on Snelling and Ford. Like the A-Line and like light rail, folks pay before they get on the bus, and that really helps with keeping the bus moving, speeding up that trip, and cutting down on delay. We at Metro Transit do not own any streets or signals. We own a few, but generally those are under control of our city, county, and state partners. We do work with them to identify potential transit advantages, ways to speed up the bus through street design. And lastly, again, central to arterial bus rapid transit is faster, frequent, and all-day service. So here are photos of three stations that are existing today. And arterial BRT stations have a standard suite of amenities. that um, we want to provide to our customers. So I'm going to walk through a couple of these features. First and foremost, we have the shelter here, provides protection from rain, from wind, from the cold. These have lights inside of them, so some so folks can safely wait in the evening hours. They have heat. Um, there's real-time information provided at this pylon here. So no more wondering if the bus is coming or where it is. You can see uh, precisely when it's going to arrive. Again, that off-board fare payment, things like trash collection, bike racks, etc. So as I said, we have a standard suite. We do, when we're getting into design, so a little bit beyond this phase, but once we're getting into engineering, um, stations are laid out responsive to the context. So thinking about other existing elements in the built environment, and then sizing that shelter, that principal element, based on the type of amount of demand we're expecting from riders. So just looking here on the image, we have a few different contexts here. Chicago and 48th Street in Minneapolis on the D line, the intersection of Ford and Fairview along the A line, and then this is a brand new station on the E line at Sheridan and 39th Street in Minneapolis. As I mentioned, maybe some of you all are familiar with the A line on the western edge of the neighborhood. We are planning to have 8 lines in operation by 2030, the H line being the 8th. So currently we have the A line, again on Snelling and Ford Parkway, the B line operating on Marshall and Selby Avenues in St. Paul, which opened this past June. The C and D lines serving Minneapolis and the southern suburbs. We're also planning in the planning phase or in the early engineering phase for the F line, the G line, which will serve Rice Street and Robert Street, and of course the H line. I'm going to highlight here critically the H line, as I mentioned earlier, provides that east-west service across St. Paul and through the heart of Minneapolis. We're really excited about this line as it's really a connector to many other routes, BRT and light rail routes in the network. And that's what we're really trying to do. We're not trying to build individual lines. We're trying to build a network that folks can rely on for their daily needs. This slide here shows existing bus routes in the corridor, as I mentioned earlier. The Route 3 is the existing primary route in this corridor. You all may be familiar with the 3A, which operates along Maryland and Rice, and the 3B, which operates on Energy Park, Front Avenue, and Rice. On the east side of the H-line corridor, there is existing service on Maryland and on White Bear Avenue. But critically, there is no east-west service between Rice Street and I believe Payne. And so, again, this is one of the things we're really excited about this project, providing that direct connection for folks to travel. So now that we've talked a little bit about what arterial VRT is and some of the outlines of our schedule, I want to really dive into what the purpose of this next phase of the H-line project is, the planning phase. The purpose is to identify, evaluate, and finalize station and platform locations, essentially where folks will be able to access the H-line. We do that again by engaging riders and the public, including you all, developing awareness of the project, and then collecting input to shape the contents of the project. And the corridor plan is our public document, our plan that we're going to be putting our proposed project elements within. And it's really the vehicle for collecting feedback from you all. We're also, of course, working very closely with our agency partners, have been for the last several months and will continue to, including the City of St. Paul, Ramsey County, MnDOT, the U of M, and our counterparts across the river. So I've mentioned the corridor plan a few times. What is included? So by the time we have our final corridor plan, which again is anticipated near the end of next year, we will have proposed station locations. So if you think about, if you look at this image on the right, stations represent these dots. Think about them as intersections. Within those intersections, we have platforms. So each station has two platforms, one for each direction of travel. So the corridor plan, again, identifies where those points should be, almost all the time at intersections, but also, you know, what sides, what corners of the intersection should the facilities be at in order to provide access for folks to get on and off the bus. Another critical part of the corridor plan is information about how and why these locations were determined, including detailed information about, you know, what we heard during our 2 public comment periods. The actual design, the down to the inch details of stations and platforms are addressed in the latter phase, the engineering phase, which again, we're anticipating to primarily take place between 27 and 28. Want to address some of the factors that we think about when we're identifying station and platform locations for arterial BRT projects. That station spacing, again, spacing them out a little bit more such that we can improve that speed and reliability. But at the same time, we want to make sure we're providing good access to transit. So residents can still access that service at convenient locations. We place station locations at important destinations, whether they're a pharmacy, a grocery store, or a concentration of jobs. We look at existing ridership to understand high ridership stops and make sure that we're serving those. Although that's, you know, that is one of several pieces here we're talking about. We're thinking about connections to other transit services. Critically, community input. You know, we will have, you know, are continuing to do technical analysis, working with our partners, but you all are the experts of this area, and we want to work with you and hear from you and get feedback, and that determines, in part, you know, where station and platform locations are located. Safety is critical. Every transit rider is a pedestrian at some point, so making sure we're providing those safe crossings, street design, and available right-of-way are also really critical pieces. And with that, I'm going to pass back to Sia to talk a little bit more about engagement specifically.
Yeah, thank you. That was great. So as I mentioned earlier, we are in our pre-engagement phase. So essentially that sets the stage for the 2 public comment periods that you see listed on the screen on this slide. Between now and the first comment period that happens and begins in late February through early April, essentially my goal is to provide information to the public who are either impacted by the project, that have interest in this project, or sometimes are both impacted and interested. This includes, but is not limited to, doing outreach with our learning institutions like schools and universities, going to senior centers, businesses, residents, libraries, and other spaces where the community gathers. And the goal, again, is really just to provide information and essentially give a heads up that this draft corridor plan is about to be released, and that we're going to go into this robust engagement period where we're asking for a lot of feedback on the station locations. That essentially is where we are now. And so that, like I said, will happen between now and until late February. From there, we'll move into the actual release of the draft corridor plan with the information that Jake just provided. And that's where we do this robust engagement period where we're asking and going out to the public, trying to meet people where they are to get feedback on the proposed stations and their locations. We take that information and we revise the corridor plan based off of the input that we received. From there, we will move into our second round. This is where we release the recommended corridor plan that will happen sometime in the summer of 2026. And we'll start another engagement period. So essentially we say, hey, this is what we heard from you all. This is how it's impacting the new or revised corridor plan. What do you think? And then we ask for more feedback. From that, we revise again based off of the input that we receive from the public. Again, this is people who are interested in the project. This is also people who are impacted by the project, and sometimes people who are interested and both impacted. After that, we move forward into our final corridor plan, which Jake already kind of mentioned what happens there. And that happens around fall or winter of 2026. So before we get into like how we engage, I think it's important that you know what our goal is for engagement. So we are also trying to receive feedback on these the stations and their locations, but we're also trying to build a relationship throughout the life of the project. And so that's really what one of my main goals is that you know who to talk to when you have a question or a concern. You have this open line of access to the agency or to the organization, and that your answers are your questions are being answered in a timely fashion, while we also go through these different types of phases of the project. I also like to have meaningful engagement. I don't believe that engagement is a one-size-fits-all, but we do have standards of what some standard practices of tactics that we use that you see on the screen here. But I also like to acknowledge that every corridor that we have a project in is unique, and figure out the uniqueness of those corridors, and try to be open to hear from the public on how you want to be engaged and what ideas you have, because like Jake said, you know your community the best. And so I'm always open to hearing how you would like for me to show up, while also having these standard practices that we use to make sure that we're informing the corridor, and again, those who are interested and impacted about this project. So also I asked that if you have any ideas on how your community would like to be addressed or communicated throughout this project, please always provide them to me, and I will try my best to show up the way that you all need. Like I said, we have some standard practices of tactics that we use to engage the public. That could be door knocking. So we door knock every station. We have station-specific flyers that have information for that particular station. This is information that you'll receive during the draft corridor plan, as well as the recommended corridor plan comment periods. We also have mailers that we send out to homes and businesses and property owners that happen along the corridor. We do a lot of pop-up events. And so you may find me at a library or at a university or a school or a senior center or a grocery store or a community meeting. However, we also join a lot of community events. So if there's an event that's going on, we want to make sure that as many people who are interested, again, in this project, or who are impacted by this project, or sometimes both, have the information that they need to be able to provide substantial feedback that we're hoping to receive. We partner with some neighborhoods and communities and businesses and advocacy groups to get this out into the network. We also tap into our existing writers through digital and in person. We do some newsletters and emails. We have a website. We also make sure that we translate all of our documents into specific languages that are unique to the corridor to make sure that we're being as equitable and accessible as possible. We do some bus interception where we hop on the bus of the impacted line and we have these conversations with people, and just try to be wherever everyone else is within the corridor, and providing information and receiving that feedback and then taking it back for our draft corridor plan and our recommending corridor plan. So like I said, right now we're currently in the pre-engagement phase where, again, I'm just providing information about what the project looks like, what is the draft corridor plan, when are those comment periods, what does it actually influence, which is, again, it's the station locations, and just preparing the community for this engagement that we're going to have between those specific times. And we'll be doing that essentially for a better part of 2026. This is also a good time for me to just introduce myself to the community, because I am the lead coordinator or community outreach coordinator for the project. And I like to build relationships on trust and transparency. And I take the work very serious. So it's a good time for me to also get my face and my name out into the public, let you all know that I'm your point of contact. And I do take serious your concerns and your questions, and just really build on the relationship as we move throughout the life of the project. And with that, we are ready for your questions, concerns, and comments.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Sia and Jake. We appreciate the time that you took here to walk us through this and kind of explain where you are in your planning stage right now. So we will, if you're online and you have a question, you can raise your hand just like Matt did. Good job, Matt. And if you're in the streetcar station, I'm actually going to let Shevik do the streetcar station version of calling on people. And so we'll start with Matt online and then Shevik will kick it over to the streetcar station.
No, thank you, Maggie, and thanks for those who presented. And I appreciate you guys being here in the pre-engagement phase and laying out kind of the plan and when we can start engaging with the community or with you guys as the community members, because not only as a board member, but as a community member, I have questions that I am trying to save until that engagement period that you're going to have, because I don't want to bog you guys down with stuff right now. So I do appreciate that. But I know you went over a little bit of like how we would engage with you guys, or how you guys are going to try to engage with the community. But I was wondering, to start off, like, is there a website or somewhere that as a community member I can go to drop in like a comment or something that I want to give you guys once that period starts? Or what does that look like?
Yep. So when it comes to the comment period, we do have an active website now. Once we get to the comment period, you will see the draft corridor plan on the website, as well as a space to provide comments for each of the stations. So that will exist. Once we get to that stage. If you go on our website right now, it doesn't exist just yet because we're not technically at that stage yet. But yes, there will be, and you can always send your questions or comments or concerns through our project email. So we have the project email is hline@metrotransit.org. We check that regularly, and we will be able to receive comments in that way as well.
All right, thank you. Because like I said, I'm trying to hold back on some questions right now, and knowing that we'll be entering the engagement period. And then as the one of the neighborhood relations co-chairs here in Como, and kind of a little bit also directed towards Jess, our community organizer, I would love to maybe have them at one of our events at the beginning of the year once this period starts. So thank you. That's all I have. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks, Matt. All right, Shevik, I'm going to let you manage the in-person folks on that side.
Lori is ready to.
Yes, hi. Hi, Jake. Hi, Sia. My name is Lori Herzl, and I live here in this neighborhood. I have a question. I was very confused. I mean, it was a great presentation, very thorough, but you talked a lot about where to put the stations, but what about where to put the route? Because that's what I think everybody who's here, and I don't know if you can see, there's like 1,000 people here. Maybe more. And we are all very concerned about having this bus go every 10 minutes through this little tiny neighborhood past the school and the very roundabout winding roads. I don't know how familiar you are with the Warrendale neighborhood, but I mean, I felt like your presentation just skipped right to where the stations will be when we are concerned about where the route will be.
Yeah, let me, I'm gonna share my slides again, see if I can pull up the map. All right. So I know it doesn't have, it's, you know, it's a long corridor. We can't zoom in here, but the project alignment, where the route will be, um, is really following the existing Route 3. And so as
We
shown
would like
here,
that changed. I'm sorry. We know that. We would like that changed. We would like to suggest that it go down Nagasaki and avoid this part of the neighborhood. Some of us, not all of us. I'm speaking for myself. But, or why can't it go out front? Why can't it replace the 3B? I mean, I feel like this needs to be talked about before you talk about where the stations will go.
Especially because there's an elementary school where there are children and a large amount of traffic every day with parents picking up their children. And there's also bus benches in the area today that I don't understand why you're not repurposing what's already available to you versus building a brand new station. Wasteful spending, I don't get it.
So you can come up and speak, but maybe wait for your, you can go after Mara.
Were you able to hear some of that, Jake?
It's hard for them to hear you following out. So the comment was that there is a school on Van Slyke, the Twin Cities German Immersion School, that has a lot of students and there's a lot of traffic there and there's real concern about safety with all the additional buses. So that was, but the person might come and address that in person as a comment. So and Lori, I'll turn it back to you, or I'll turn it to the Metro Transit folks.
yeah, so so the H-line project and the routing was adopted by the Metropolitan Council in 2021, and we are working with that policy direction for the project. We, as part of that process, I can say the Como Maryland 3A branch was chosen over the 3B branch along Energy Park and Front for a few reasons. For that east-west connection, but critically, service to Como High School and some of the other key destinations that are accessible along the 3A portion of the route.
Well, are you able to give clarity that depending on the plate, because one of the aspects of the BRT is that it severely thins out the number of stops. So depending on stop placement, would you consider minor route changes that might be requested by the community?
So again, we're as staff, we are working under the policy direction that we have right now from the Metropolitan Council and Metro Transit, which is working within this gray alignment that that is defining the project at this point in time. During our first public comment period, these are certainly points of view that we welcome and would encourage you to share. It's at that time that we're working with our policymakers throughout the project, but it's at that time where we're really gathering feedback from everyone throughout this 17-mile corridor, and I think that's probably the most appropriate time for us to collect that feedback.
So could you say that? So I just want to make sure we're clear. Because you say you're looking for feedback, but then I'm kind of hearing that, but not on the corridor route. But maybe at some future point, you would listen. And so I just want to clarify, when is that future point and who would be doing the listening? And how would folks here get their input to the Metropolitan Council?
Mm-hmm.
Sia, do you want to take that?
Yeah, so first I just want to clarify what I'm hearing you say. You're saying that you want to be able to provide public feedback on the route itself and not the locations of the stations. Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah.
Correct.
Oh.
Route first, then the station.
Okay.
Well, both, first the route, then the stations.
Yeah.
Okay, so I would say we did go through the route itself was selected in 2021 as part of the Network Next. We did go through a engagement period where we received a lot of comments on what routes would benefit the community for BRTs. And that's how the H line and this route was specifically was chosen. So at this point, to just be 100% transparent, our draft corridor is not going to be mentioning the route itself, but the stations and the station locations. Because we did do some of that preliminary work in 2021 to identify the route. And so now we're in the planning stages for the route. Hopefully that makes sense. And so part of that planning stage for the route is figuring out where the stations will be. And that is what we're going to be asking feedback on, is the station location.
Yeah, it's a good question. I was wondering, was there a safety study done in the school? That area is really, and just trying to get through just when parents are picking up and dropping off and stuff, it's
Crossing.
and people going across the street. Was there a safety study done, and what was the result of that, if it was done?
The question is was there a safety study done for around the German immersion school at Van Slyke, and what were the results of the safety study if it was done?
Yeah, so a specific safety study was not conducted. I will say that, again, we are using the alignment of the existing Route 3. And to my knowledge, there has been no safety concern with that operation as it's existed for the last many years. Safety is critical to what Metro Transit does, and we take it very seriously. We do operate bus service as we do today in front of the German immersion school, but really throughout the region, operate bus service safely in front of high schools, middle schools, and elementary schools. Every situation is slightly different, but we have confidence based on past experience with the Route 3 that this will remain a safe travel option.
Well, I actually, who was, Jeremy, go ahead.
Hey, my name is Jeremy Stomberg, again, local resident. I'm a big transit proponent myself. I use it as much as it makes sense. It goes where I need to go and the times I need it to go. I love the idea of faster and more frequent service, but you call this a substantial upgrade and extension of Route 3, but the current plan doesn't actually provide service to the downtown of the city that we live in. Mm-hmm. The current three line is primarily and substantially following the route of the Como Harriet streetcar line. It has been a fantastic, efficient, useful transit corridor since 1893. It has, as you mentioned earlier, been a very successful route and has been for over 125 years, but that's because it goes from one downtown to the other by the fairgrounds and the East Bank and the West Bank and the St. Paul campuses of the U of M. Removing a major hub like downtown St. Paul while instead featuring downtown Minneapolis seems rather antithetical to the goals of giving us a substantial upgrade that you're promising of what we have now. This doesn't help residents of this neighborhood get to and from jobs, city government offices, county government offices, concerts and sporting events downtown. Why is this project that you're saying is expanding Route 3 actually cutting off a huge portion of it and not giving us faster, easier service to downtown St. Paul?
I appreciate the question. And I didn't highlight this earlier. And it's what I wanted to make sure I do now. So the portions of Route 3, including on Rice Street with the connection into downtown St. Paul, will continue to have alternative service. Critically, and so that includes, the green you're seeing on the screen that doesn't overlap with the H-line alignment. The downtown connection is incredibly important. And we are really pleased to be introducing the G line on Rice Street in 2027. So the G line will operate similarly to the H line, fast, frequent, all-day service. And so say you're boarding near the park and you are downtown bound, we would be asking riders to transfer to the G line at Rice Street for that trip into downtown. That is a trade-off. It is.
Okay, how is that faster than transferring when I can get on one bus and go downtown? How is that faster? How is that more efficient for more people here?
Sure. Well, it will come.
Yeah.
It will come far more often, as often as every 10 minutes instead of every 20 to 30 today. I can't, so there's that component, right? A transfer is in some ways a time penalty.
I would
But
say,
we are talking about, throughout the entire corridor, we do expect to see 20 to 25% improvement in travel times. Your specific example is one aspect where there is a trade-off being made as part of this project. That trade-off is consistent east-west service connecting across Maryland Avenue and not requiring folks to travel downtown in order to go eastbound or westbound.
yeah, and also I would also like to highlight that we are creating a network, and so the H line will fit into the BRT network that we're trying to create, as well as we're bringing service to places that haven't had service before. So there is a trade-off with the unfortunately with you having to transfer to get down to downtown, but you're also transferring to another BRT service, which is more faster, more reliable, and more frequent. And so you don't need a schedule. You don't need to go on Google Maps and map out a whole thing. You can just go to your station, get picked up, go to your other station and get picked up. So it is actually still faster, especially with the amenities that you have about the pre-boarding. You pay before you board, and you have stops every 1/3 to half a mile. Plus, again, the trade-off here is we're providing service in a place where the service wasn't before as well.
Okay, yeah, just real quick follow-up. Will the service then on the 3B be increased? So people that are actually going downtown are along Energy Park, or is that going to kind of shrink down, or will it remain the same?
So the early assumptions, again, we're early in the project, is that there would be a new route covering that portion of the 3B, a new local route, and the working assumption is that it would operate as often as it does today, approximately every 30 minutes.
You had mentioned, Sia, that there was a public comment period for when the route was identified, but I think you mentioned that it was about where the various routes were going. Can you just talk more about when that public comment period was? Because if it happened before 2021 in March, I imagine there were many people in the community that were a little distracted at that time. So I think that some of the frustration you're hearing from the room is that you maybe did hold a public comment period about it in late 2020, early 2021, and maybe nobody knew about it.
Yeah, exactly.
Dick, do you mind? I want to pull the like exact numbers of comments that we received. But I don't have that with me.
I can get us started. Um, yeah, 2020 was a wild year. We did, as part of that project between 2019 and 2021, identify the F, G, and H lines. And so the alignment we're talking about today, the routing. As part of over the course of that project, which was called Network Next, there were 3 engagement periods. Each, I believe one was maybe 3 months in length, and 2 others at least 1 month in length. We did a lot of engagement in using the strategies that Sia mentioned earlier. I do know that for each of those 3 comment periods that was held during that previous project, I believe the number of survey responses, which was our primary tool for collecting feedback, where we directed everyone to provide their comment. I know we received many thousands of comments during that time.
It sounds like that was for all of the network, not for the H line or the specific corridor.
Yeah, not for
right?
this.
That's for the whole network?
Yes.
It was a network project. We were identifying 3 arterial BRT lines, the F, G, and H lines. And so it was a network-wide engagement. We wanted to talk to everyone. We started with approximately
A quick question to
take.
that. Yeah. My name is Maren Swenson, and I have a couple of questions here. To that last comment, did you actually engage with the community council and the local representation of the neighborhoods during that planning process, or did you just put out something online and then engage with whoever answered your surveys?
Sure.
We have the district councils in St. Paul, which are a way for a community to actively participate and be involved in these decisions in our neighborhoods.
So that process between 2019 and 2021 was before both Sia and I joined Metro Transit. So I can't speak personally on this. I do know that district councils and neighborhood organizations in Minneapolis and St. Paul were at least reached out to. I can't say with certainty whether this group had that meeting or shared that information in a newsletter.
Okay, but I have a couple comments, but a quick question. First of all, it's not just the Twin Cities German Immersion School. You also have St. Anthony Park Elementary. You have train backups and from letting out from Como High School. You have the 4th of July celebration, the J4, the Hmong celebration, which reroutes the buses because you can't get through. Como Park is a very busy park. So there will be times when the buses will not go through on a schedule because it's backed up. There's the MSRE street routes that back up the traffic, and there's the Minnesota State Fair, which backs up the traffic. So when the community members had you actually talk to us, would have said, the best idea would have been going down Front Avenue. We have a high-rise apartment, you have a pending, and this wasn't in 2021 because things change. There will be a homeless women's and family shelter going in there. There are medical facilities there. There are business facilities. There is actually the roadway that can support that. For as far as stations go, if you go on Front Avenue, you've got a cemetery, and those people don't care where you put the stations. You've got a lot more potential ridership and people that need to do that. You are operating on a 125-year-old streetcar route. Maybe what needs to happen is we need a chance to go back as a community to Metro Council and say, hey, listen to our idea. We know our neighborhood. We know what might be different now than was going on 6 or 7 years ago. Would you consider changing it and making some tweaks in this process? We were just bypassed completely. And I think that's not what this community does. We don't like being bypassed, and we have very good ideas and very, very good understanding of our neighborhood, having lived in a very busy and complicated and accepting neighborhood. Thank you.
I'm gonna jump. Thank you. Yeah, thank you all. I'm gonna jump in real quick and just do like number one, a time check that it's 8 o'clock. We're okay. This is the only thing we really have on our agenda tonight. So I think we can easily give this 15 more minutes and still stay within our meeting time slot here. The other thing I want to just emphasize is Jake and Sia let us know that they were not part of the initial planning phase. And so I'm just going to ask everyone as we think about this to remember that like these are two folks who are showing up outside of normal work hours to talk with us about a project that they have been tasked with bringing to the community. And so I want to make sure that we, even if the neighborhood is feeling like we don't want this, that doesn't necessarily reflect on them as individuals here. This isn't something that these two people are doing to us. Yeah.
So Maggie, actually, there is one question. There's a question from before, which was, what is the process for actually providing the input? Well, what point and what way can folks provide this formal input to the Metropolitan Council?
A proposal to the Met Council.
Yeah.
Thea, do you want to take that? I'll share the screen again.
And so I guess I want to clarify, because if you're talking about the stations and the station locations, then that will happen during the draft corridor plan comment period. But what I would assume you're talking about is the route itself, right? I don't want to make any assumptions, but I'm assuming that you're not asking about the stations or the station location feedback, which is what the draft corridor would be about, and the route itself.
Right. We are interested in first providing feedback, and I'm speaking for the group in general, maybe not all, but there are folks that are interested in providing feedback first on the route, and then only then on the station location.
Right. Yes.
Yeah, what I can tell you is that I don't know that process. I'm just going to be 100% honest. I will have to check. I don't believe that we are taking any comments on the route itself, as we've gone through that process to already select the alignment, and that we would be currently asking for input on the stations. And so while I hear your concerns, I do also want to say, because I heard you say that you will provide comments on the stations after, like once you get the ability to provide comments on the route. And I would say that I would personally ask you to still make comments on the station locations themselves during these comment periods. And then when it comes to the route, that is something I would have to look into. To be 100% honest, that's not the feedback that we are requesting at this time.
You get that?
Well, I guess I would just make the comment that, well, two things. One, it doesn't exactly make sense to provide comment on the station location if the route is going to change. So that's one thing. And then the second though is, could you, I realize this isn't a formal comment process, but can you let folks know back at the Met Council that you've got a room full of people here that are very concerned about the route that's being chosen?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We will have a conversation for sure. Again, I want to be transparent that I don't want to give any promises or guarantees or anything like that the route will change. I do want to make sure that you are using your voice and your feedback where we know for a fact it can impact the project, which is during our comment period for the draft corridor plan and the recommended corridor plan about the stations and the station locations. So I acknowledge that everyone has a lot of feedback that they want to provide. And I do ask that you provide feedback during our comment period around the station locations, please, and thank you, while we have conversations about your concerns around the route. I think those two things can happen at the same time while we're having these conversations about the route. Again, I cannot make any guarantees, and I'm not going to make a guarantee or a promise that any of the feedback that we receive about the route itself will change the route, because we're not in a comment period about the route alignment selection.
I'd like to add.
So if you could come up and speak into the.
No,
Sorry.
that's fine.
It's hard for them to hear.
I understand. I was gonna have you translate.
Oh, sorry.
I think my name is Colleen Sigasio. I think that everybody here is very glad for the fact you are giving us a chance to vote on, or not vote, but give input as to where you're going to put the little stations. However, I feel that the room is very disgruntled, or worse, that they were never given the opportunity, as many as you showed us on that one slide, at least 6 different ways of letting us give feedback. We have never gotten that opportunity as a neighborhood to give that feedback on where the route will. It sounds like it's a done deal, and that stinks, but anyway.
By show of hands, how many people lived here in 2019? How many of you had public comment about the H line?
No.
0% in the room.
And if I can add, I think one of the greatest concerns with the community is the safety aspect of these transit buses running back and forth every 10 minutes. And you indicated that there was no study or anything done in regards to that. That's why the route is a concern.
So the comment is that a real concern has to do with safety, and part of it has to do with frequency. The frequency is great for efficiency, but people are concerned that there are going to be 2 buses every 10 minutes now, one each way, and versus what's going currently, which is every 20 or 30 minutes. And so is the Metropolitan Council looking at the safety concerns with going through this neighborhood and past the schools and things like that? And we just wanted to make sure that that was addressed. And I think an understanding that frequency of the buses is one of the concerns. And we have one more person.
Hi, Lisa. I'm Shelley Diamond. My husband and I have lived in the neighborhood for 37 years, and we really do see the buses as a wonderful resource for the community. But I do believe that you saw that no one here was aware of the so there essentially was no opportunity for public feedback for this group. Safety being our number one issue, I'd like to ask if the group agrees with me
that we want to ask the Met Council to do a safety study for the schools before any decision is made to finalize that route.
I would like to amend that.
And the park. Safety studies for this neighborhood, the park, and we have alternatives that having lived here for a long time, look like they'd be really good choices to look at. We weren't consulted. I'd like to see the Met Council do a safety study before any decision is made on the route regarding this neighborhood, our neighborhoods. So the route is the issue, and we were not consulted, and that is not okay with us. That cannot be a done deal when it was decided quietly, not by you, dear. I understand all of the work that you guys are doing, and I really appreciate your providing this forum for us. But it's absolutely essential that safety be looked at before a route is confirmed. Yeah.
So I think the question, clearly the neighborhood has things to say. I think the direction that I am looking for from Jake and Sia is your task is to collect feedback about stops starting in February. It is not your task, it sounds like, to collect any kind of feedback about routes at this point in time. Whosever job that is, we're gonna have to figure that out. So my first question is either right now off the top of your head, or if you can think about it and let Shevik know, I think that what we would like to know is is it Met Council? Is it Metro Transit? Who do we talk to about routes? I understand that there is not currently a formal comment period for that. I don't think that we are looking for there to be. We know that that's gone. So we need to know who we talk to about that, or who we would express this to. What I'm hearing so that's part one, is like you have to know the audience that you need to go find and talk to. Part two is what it is that we want to communicate. And I hear language about amendments and asks for things, from the board. We have a specific process for action items. But what I hear as much as anything is first knowing even the potential lies, and then making a request for something like a rationale, a consideration of alternate routes, a safety study. I want to put in the asterisk, so folks in this room, and many of you have heard me say this in different contexts, that our district council is advisory and not compulsory. So we can't make them do that. What we can do, though, is as a board and as a community, we can write a letter and say, like, folks, we feel so left out of this process that is going to bring, an extreme change in both the traffic pattern and in the feel of our area. We're looking across the street at Nagasaki, which is, 100 feet away and much less traveled and out of the route of some of those schools. We know that we have Front, which is built for rapid transit in a way that Como might not be, right? And so I think that that's what I hear the group asking for. But before we execute on anything like that, I need to know where to send it.
Clarify, we're not at.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
So I'll say that the alignment of BRT lines, including the H line, are approved by the Metropolitan Council. And again, we are working through under the assumption and direction of the Metropolitan Council as they approved this alignment in 2021.
Right.
You all are represented by Councilmember Tony Carter, and the council votes on alignments of BRT lines.
The purple line was changed due to community feedback, correct?
It
There's no
was.
one mental corridor. So, I mean, and that was getting fairly close. So I think that there are no shovels in the ground. So there is plenty of time. I would think that we could actually speak to someone at the Met Council, and could you provide Shevik or anyone else at District 10 contact information that they can then send out to members of the community so we can speak, so we can offer our opinions to those decision makers?
We have provided that to Shevik.
I can give you Tony Carter's email.
Fantastic.
Good, thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, we do have one more agenda item that involves us discussing our budget, which is a big important issue. You're welcome to stay. If you have any other comments, feel free to reach out to Shevik or myself. We'll be happy to address them. I will also add that if you want D10 to be an ally to you in this organization, that district councils are historically an under-resourced organization, so it's a great opportunity to help support us with our mission here. And sign up to our newsletter, stop by for future events, come to our Blizzard breakfast in February. Thank you, folks. Thank you for coming. Thank you. Hey, that's part of the job, right?
Sia and Jake, I just want to take a minute to say thank you guys for being here. I just I want to recognize that messengers often get tangled up in hyperlocal community pieces here, and I appreciate you really taking the time to walk us through the process that was used, and also to help us understand the process as it lies in front of us at this point. So thank you guys. You definitely do not have to sit through our budget talk.
Yeah, I'll also say thanks, guys, for showing up. I do really appreciate it, and I was hoping my comment would spur some people from not asking those things, but it's gonna happen.
Well, and I think that it makes sense, right? When it's in front of folks is when they have those questions. And I mean, if we know anything, it's that the city of St. Paul and the Met Council often it operates on such a larger scale than we do here at the individual neighborhood level, that it just misses us sometimes. And those are marks that the organizations miss, and then we go chasing after them, being like, hey, wait for us. And I just, again, we appreciate you guys being here to walk us through it.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Have a good night.
Thank you.